Hello all, today I'm going to be taking you through how I created a simple racing game using Coplay in Unity. I did this all in Gemini 3 Pro model, which is the free version, but it does still use credits. I did this all on normal mode and with auto approve on for most of it. In the beginning, I did do self approve and then did run into auto approve limit, but you can fix that by just adjusting it. And I'll be showing you this with a pre-recorded video. So here you can see I have a basic asset pack that I added with car models. And I'm going to first ask it to create a car controller script so that it can be, and the camera attached to the car so that it can be controlled by the player in a basic setup using the models provided from a asset pack. And as typing it, I dragged and dropped the asset pack into the chat to show the model this folder has all the contents in it. Okay, firstly, action it does is create a simple task list with all the steps going over it. It's going to go through to complete what I asked it to do. And it first reads all the files, getting all the info it needs to work, and gets all the asset lists, and then it starts creating the car controller script, which will be the basic logic behind how the car works, such as the speed, the turn, the friction, if there's friction, drag, all that knowledge of how a car works is in this script. And it's creating the camera script for the camera to be following the car. Here you can see me showing the steps that task list that it's set up with all the steps it's planning to do. So as you can see up till now, it has created gotten all the input system packages and the stuff ready. It's created the car follow script and the camera follow script. Now it's going to set up the scene so we can do all of that. Here, and now it's going to, after the script's added, checks for compiler errors just to make sure there's nothing wrong with it. And it opens the Unity scene, the scene to create the assets in. And it first creates a plane for the ground and then spawns in the model car asset. And now it wants to add the components, the scripts to the player car, to the object in the scene, and it also adds the Unity input system to said car. Next, it's going to add the car camera script to the main camera so that it will follow the car. And here you can see it's setting the properties of the main camera to follow, attaching the scripts to the player car so that it will follow this object. And yeah, and you can see also with some of the objects you'll see a red tick where it wasn't able to do the task correctly, but when it does, it has a green tick. And most of the time when there's a red tick, it will try and solve the problem out itself. And now it's going to do the setup script to set up all the wheels and everything for the car so that it works naturally. And no, it's going into the model, finding the actual wheels, labeled wheels, and setting them all up using into the car controller script, takes a screenshot of the scene to see if everything is done correctly. And there you can see all the tasks completed should be used playable, and everything that was set up for this. For the next part, I told it to add the included textures that was in the package, and I attached them to the chat window to show us these two texture maps that it needs to add. Created a task list to add this to the cars, and you can see here adding everything. Didn't find those objects, so I decided to write a script to add the textures, and after loading, it can still see the textures are still not added. A new script to fix materials, and they got the materials and the textures on the car, all looking good, with the emissive textures. For the example, the lights. Now, for the next task, I asked it to create a city, a normal city with roads. And it creates the task list as the first step. It read a previous city generator script that I had in here because I originally tested a generation and it wasn't to my liking, so I wanted to do it again. So it goes and modifies that script to generate it. It sets up the ground prefabs, adds a city generator component to the scene, and then compiler errors, and then it creates a script to generate the city, and executes said script. And here you can see this is what it comes out to, which is not exactly a city, as this is using assets in the asset pack that I was added and was in the example scene. But you'll see now it will go ahead and try and fix this. I did run into a bit of a Coplay, into a bit of an error, but it went ahead and it did stuff correctly. It goes and edits all the script, and here it wants to get a screenshot again just to see what it is at. Now it wants to create a plane with the city road maps and the city tiles for the roads. Now it's removing the tile again as it's now prefab, and removes the city as it has it all stored in prefabs that it needs. Now it's alterated the city generation script, and it will now execute it. You can see it's a bit more spaced out. The tiles aren't exactly right next to each other. Takes an image again, and now it wants to generate a road tile texture, which I told it to continue on with. And here you can see the texture that it comes out with, which I thought looked good. So I continued on with it. It creates a material to set it up in, and it assigns that material to the road prefab in the scene. There you go, you can see it being applied. Takes a screenshot to see the state of what it is. Now it wants to do the intersection roads. It's like not necessarily best, but I worked with it because I liked it. The design went along with it, creating a new plane for the intersections, sets the transforms for them, and assigns the material for that asset. And removes it from the scene so that I can put it into the script to generate again. And then it's running the script. There you can see, and there's a bit more laid out. I had ran into a bit of an error, failed to fetch image, but I just told it to continue with left off, and it continued at the point on the task list where it was at last. Um, Created a material concrete mat and materials. Updated the city generator, but to fill in the gaps, as I believe. And checking compiler errors, and then it's gonna setting the proportions for city width, city length, adding a pavement material, and here you can see the full city being generated. Updating the generator script again, and there, it set everything up. Now everything's connected, and there's roads, but and here's the task list that I did off, but I wasn't happy with the size of the roads compared to the car. So I told it needs to scale the roads, as the roads are too big compared to the car. So it added a 4-step checklist, task list that I'd want to do, and it just compared the scale of the car to the scale of the road tiles, and it adjusted it accordingly. Here you can see adjusting the city generation script, and there it regenerates the roads at a better size, and it completes the task list. Here you can see everything it did for the scene setup. I had a small issue where it looked like the buildings in the middle was generating again after start, even if it was already there. So I asked it to not generate when starting the scene. So it updated the script not to do that, and it added a boolean flag to say if it is already there, it won't won't generate. And I was happy with the generation at this point. So I tested the car driving a bit, and I didn't like how it felt. Like it was feeling like driving on ice. So I asked it to adjust it a bit to have a bit more grip. So here it goes in for wheel friction script and adds a bit more detail to the car controlling, and updates the car controller script to adjust the values in there. And here it applies wheel friction to the car to simulate friction, and it's executing those scripts now. And it removes the non-needed scripts now. And they're done with the task list. And you can see exactly what was done. It added a stiffness and a sideways stiffness properties to the car, and now it's all adjustable in the inspector, so I can myself go and adjust it in the inspector, and it applied it all to the new car. Now I asked it to get into the details of the game, a checkpoint race system to work inside the city, and it created a 8-step task list. Firstly, I started a new chat because I wanted a new idea to go with. So it creates 2 scripts here, and it's the race manager, and then I believe it's the that's checkpoint script, yeah, for the positioning and how the checkpoints are going to look, and working with the on-trigger enter system to detect when the player enters them. And the race manager is going to house all the timer, the checkpoint positioning, how many checkpoints you've passed through. You can see setting up cubes in the scene to create the checkpoints, and there it has created the checkpoint it is going to use. And setting up everything, the canvas now for the in-game UI, such as the timer and the checkpoints, how many checkpoints you've gone through. I There you go. Let's see checkpoints for that set up in the canvas. And here I did run into my request limit, but I did go and adjust it. You can always go and adjust it to more. So just for the auto approval, but I did go and adjust it again, and it did run into an issue again. Then I did adjust it again, but it's still smooth sailing. And here it updates the race generator to set up where the positioning of the checkpoints are going to be and where the start is going to be. And updates the race manager script to generate the race at the start of each game. Yeah, let's take a screenshot to see how it is looking. Got a bit of a Coplay error processing it, but it continued on after. And yeah. But as it got to that error, I decided to restore back to a previous checkpoint that I knew worked. Here you can see me restoring to checkpoint. The checkpoint system was working at this point. I now asked it to make it a way for the player to know which direction the checkpoint is. It reads the scripts. Updates the race manager script for this positioning and it is facing bool. Checking compiler errors after updating the script. And it creates a checkpoint arrow object on the player position and appearance it underneath the car, which later on it doesn't work, but we go ahead with it. That's an arrow visual, so it will point towards the next checkpoint. Okay, here it takes a screenshot to see how it is set up. And it updates the task list and it is done. It says it should now work pointed the direction. So what I did is I didn't ask it to fix the arrow. I just manually shifted the arrow up to above the car, and it was fixed, and I disabled rigid body so that it doesn't collide with the car. So now I asked it to create a main menu scene with all the base functionality for a main menu. It creates a new scene, 7-step task list, adds a canvas, and then adds all the menu panels, all the buttons, the settings to play, the exit, adds the text, and then adds a menu manager script just to control the scene loading and everything. so that which button does which. And then disabled made the panels that are not meant to be seen now inactive, and only when button is pressed. And it's executing those scripts. You can see the panels on the left hand side became grayed out because they are not active. And it's gonna sit updating the build settings, executing it, and removing the build settings script just to make sure that it will work. Takes a UI screenshot. And adds the checklist to the task list to show everything it did do to create. Here you can see me testing it. The buttons do not work, so I tell it the buttons, can't click on the buttons, and the title is also cut off. So I asked it to fix the title text and the button shape as well, because I didn't like that they were square. You can see going out, getting all the info, removing the Sunderland input module, adding a new one, a script to fix the UI, then it runs it, then removes it, and captures a screenshot. You can see now the trigger point for the button, the green outline here. You'll see the buttons update. There you go. That's new buttons and a new title. It's fixed. I fixed the input system so that I know when I click it will work. Updated that script. Checks for compiler errors, executes the script. And then refine UI script. Executes it, removes it as it's not needed in, captures a screen view. And then I did it again just to test it from a different point. It manually moved the camera to get a full shot. And I'd verified and fixed it to make sure it works. Executes that script. And there you go. It was done. All 5 tasks done. You can see here what it did. It replaced the input button for the clicking for the buttons and the event system. Added a new event system. Fixed the title text, fixed the button shape and appearance, and adjusted the layout to even spacing. It was all working at that point. You will see later on. And then for the next thing, I asked it, with the generation, it was having a problem. There weren't roads generating on the other 2 sides of the city on the outside. And then I also asked it to add invisible barriers on the outside of the city so that the cars cannot go out of the city bounds. Here it goes, fix the city generation tool, adds the roads to the outside as the first step. And then executes said script to apply it. And gets game objects and everything. Gets a screenshot to see if it's work. Here you can see it creates a script for the physical wall material, which is going to create the invisible walls around the exterior of the city to stop the cars from leaving the city. Executes it and deletes the physical material. updates the city generator so that it will generate it around the outside. And you can finish it, and then it is gets a positioning of the city borders and create borders on said positions. And it captures the screenshot, and you can see the green outlines, not exactly, but like the thickness of it is that thick. Then you can see it runs along the whole stretch on each side. And then updates the script, and here you can see where I manually adjusted the arrow on top of the car. It's not fully an arrow, but it's a cube, but it's still did what it needed to do. Here you can see me just testing it out. You can see it hit the corner there, but the checkpoints are still not generated correctly. So I asked it to fix up the race logic and the checkpoint spawning to be a bit more logical and structured in the race orientation. So you can, and it created a 6-step task list, and it actually made it relatively good. It ended up fixing it to make it all spawn on the intersection, so they are all visible to the player. Yeah, you can see it completed the task list. What it did, made a connect race path, smart start positioning, so it positions the car at the correct place, correct orientation to start the race. And it only starts the race manager after the city has been generated, so that it doesn't overlap and it cause wrong spawning. Okay, then here you can see it's a bit more followable, but like the checkpoints don't really work for that setup, as they are awkwardly coming from the side. So can see me running through it. I asked it here, can you fix the checkpoints before being like glowing circular beams, which are a bit more visible and nicer looking, with an arrow inside them pointing to the position of the next checkpoint. As I thought that would be easier to see and would be a better looking experience. So it updates the race manager, race generation, and checks it, and it says it completed all those steps. So it replaced the old prefabs with new prefabs with the glowing beam, added a directional arrow that points towards the next position of the next checkpoint, so you'd always know where it is. So here you can see the checkpoint. It is pointing left towards the next point, and this is the beam. Here's me testing out, very logical flow and working, and hits the end, race ends. Now I don't want the city just to be floating in a void, so I asked it to create a hilly terrain around the city. It's first getting all the info from the city generator script, not to the positioning, so that it will adjust the terrain around the city. And here it creates a terrain generator script, adds the component, and executes said script to generate the terrain. Here you can see the hilly terrain around the city, and you can see the city is still on a flat terrain, so that is not influenced. And takes the screenshot to check if it is done. And it's 6 out of the 10 tasks were done. Now it's creating a grass mat material to apply to the terrain. Adds a skybox from which was from the asset pack I added. And it unfortunately the material was not added to the terrain. It says it did, but it did not. I will now tell it to fix it, but it created the terrain, generated hills around the city, keeping the city flat, added a skybox to the game. You can see me running it, but then also issue was it was at the same height as the road, so it caused a bit of a overlap issue. So I'm just gonna ask it to adjust it a bit lower and then also apply the texture to the terrain. Okay, updates the task list to fix those two problems, generates a grassy texture for the terrain, which I think looked decent, so I used it. Added a script to apply it to the terrain and then a script to fix the terrain so that it would fix the height of said terrain so it doesn't go at the same height as the roads and doesn't have the overlap issue. You can see taking a screenshot of a city, fix terrain material again, executing that script, and you can see it adding the material. It looks like it's only applied to the right side, and I was also a bit confused for that for a second. But I was like, let me just wait for it to finish doing. I was like, okay, it's the task list. I ran it, but you can see it's all there. It was just the canvas for the UI, which is blocking seeing the texture on the other side. It's running, and also no more clipping through the floor. And the car controller was feeling very slippery and not responsive enough. So I wanted it to rework that and fix the car controller. So 4-step list, reading the car controller script, updates the car controller script and checking for errors in the compiler. And then it's going to execute said script. First setting the adjusting properties. And then, yes, the car felt a lot more snappier and nicer to drive. And now I asked it to set up a full second scene, a separate second race type, which is going to dealing with laps instead of a checkpoint to checkpoint. Obviously, there's still going to be checkpoints in that race, but it's going to be multiple times around the circuit. 8-step process that it's going to go through to generate this task list. Sorry. And it updates the race manager script to add a lap system, creates a new scene, racetrack scene Unity. It's city generator, generates everything again in this scene. Basically just made a duplicate of the previous scene, updated the script and how the spawning worked, and updated the race manager to include lapping. Obviously just for the scene, as the other one still works as checkpoint race. See me a bit confused where it was, but it, there you go. It's working on the lap and it finished. That was 2 laps. So now in the main menu, I asked it to add the second scene as an option as well. So here it is just adding scenes to the build, so that obviously can be called, which is in the Unity settings. You're going to need to add it to the build. Executing the script to add it. Checking compiler errors. Found an issue and it's going to try and fix that. Fixes that, executes the script. It saves the scene. List gets all the files and assets, removes that command, that, and then save action scene, and then finish the list of everything it does to add it. It says it completed the task list. Here's the task list of everything it did. It updated the main menu, added a level select panel reference, updated the build settings, added the missing scenes, the new one that we created, and created a level select UI in the scene, such as a new canvas with everything existing and making sure the buttons go to the correct place. Here you can see it working. Going to the lap race, this is just a rundown of the game in the end, so enjoy watching.